going to start a new process here because we're living in the greatest story that's ever been told. It's the story of the evolution of humanity. And we've learned it's a 13.8 billion year story, but we haven't yet learned we're in the story, as the story, acting out our part. So I'm going to share with you the story of the parts we're acting out here in Berkeley, California, with the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. And here's the key theme for the last 2 weeks. It's joining genius through convergence of separate forces coming together to do something new. It's more than cooperating, it's more than collaborating, it's taking this person and this group and how, if we join synergistically, could something new happen. So I'll start out with Avon Madison and Pathways to Peace. Avon has since the mid-70s been working on Pathways to Peace at the United Nations. She's created Culture of Peace Initiative. She has hundreds of groups around the country and world. And at her birthday party, her 75th birthday party, I was sitting next to her, and she said to me, "Barbara, let's join forces." And she took hold of my hand, and I said, "Join forces? What do you mean?" She said, "Well, join forces with Pathways to Peace and Foundation for Conscious Evolution." And I thought, just for a moment, what does that actually mean? Join forces with an organization of 30 years of groups and activities and United Nations initiatives. And here's my foundation that's been going for the last 15, 20 years. And we have colleagues. And so she said yes. And we've begun to explore how to do that. Then the second amazing thing that happened is we were invited last week to Dallas, Texas, by Marianne Thompson to join Don Beck's Vital Signs Monitor and Spiral Dynamics with the wheel or spiral of co-creation and the Peace Room. Just think of what that means. Don has an extremely deep, serious study of the different memes of different cultures. So let's say he names them with colors. There's the red, that's the warlord. Well, they have different value systems. Then you get to the blue, that's authoritarian culture, perhaps like a Muslim culture. And then you move further up and you get to orange. Orange is capitalism. I'm out there for myself, I'm going to win. Then you go to green, which is environmentalists. We're all equal, we all love each other, we all care for each other. But then the great thing that happens is you go to yellow, you go to integral, and if you're in yellow, you can see all those other parts of the spiral as part of yourself and part of our culture. And every one of them has unique aspects of it to make it more healthy. Let's say the Palestinian-Israeli situation. They're very, very strong memes or ideas as to what's right and wrong and all the suffering that's been caused. How do you make that more cooperative, functionally? And the Vital Signs Monitor is Don's effort to identify what's actually happening in all levels of this spiral of culture, moving towards resolving issues where they're very dangerous, as in apartheid, and we help do that for Africa, as in the Israeli-Palestinian that he's working on now. And joining with that, with the wheel of co-creation, which he says, be sure to call it a spiral, not a wheel. It's a wheel when everybody's seated together, but if you look at it, universe, earth, life, animal life, human life, going around our turn on the spiral, the wheel is our turn on the spiral, and in the wheel is the impulse of evolution coming through the heart of the wheel, and then his health, education, economics. So as we looked at that with Don Beck, basically he was saying what you're offering is for the emerging culture. It's not so much going into where there are these extremely difficult crises. The emerging culture, but now we're adding to the emerging culture the United Nations SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them. They've been worked on by over 1 million people. In other words, it's a planetary initiative that the UN is now bringing forward, and we realize that so many of those, whether it be food or health or economic equality or justice, they're all sectors of the wheel. And as we're joining together with Don's spiral dynamics and vital signs, the part that we can best play is identifying what's emerging in every one of those sectors toward these United Nations goals by connecting and synergizing as part of a whole system. So I'm only telling you this because it's very challenging to merge all of that and see how to bring it up into a global culture. That's that particular task. We've got AVEN, Pathways to Peace, joining forces with Foundation toward a culture of peace. We have major activities at all sectors of the world with Don Beck toward supporting United Nations Millennial Goal, or what they call now SDGs. Then we invented, just on Monday night at the Falkirk in Berkeley, a new kind of event that we call Convergence. And the story goes, of course, that everything that's breaking down is moving towards catastrophe. But it's also true that everything that's working in health, education, economics, science and technology, if you keep going with it, you get more and more synchronicities, more and more people finding each other. And there's a little space in there between all the tension of this kind of synchronicity that you move into what I'm calling the convergence zone, where if you have a project and you're just at the point of fulfilling it, but you need something else, and somebody else has a desire to help you and comes up to say, this is how I can support you, you go into the convergence zone. And in the convergence zone, the way the universe self-organizes from simple to more complex for billions of years, it's a call on the universal process of synergistic convergence that created the whole universe and our bodies of trillions and trillions of cells, calling upon us to join forces to create. So the first convergence at the Falkirk in San Rafael, California, was thrilling because there were about 40 people there. I told the story of everything that rises converges and creating a convergence zone for what's rising. Then it wasn't people giving a talk, it was people sharing their passion and other people then saying, I want to help here, I want to help there. So by the time we had finished those 2 hours, there was a feeling of social love. There was a feeling of excitement. There was a feeling of community. Well, we'd like to do more of this. Why don't we do this? Why should we not be doing this? It's what we want to do anyway. You just need a slight bit of structure. So with that, we had a meeting with Bill Gladstone, who has been my editor and publisher and agent. He came overnight, and we had a hilarious evening thinking of all the places to have convergences. So we've partially scheduled one for LA Convergence and another one for New York Convergence. So I have to tell you, who we're going to want to do the New York Convergence with is a radically intelligent scientist called Howard Bloom. He's famous for the work of the global brain. He's famous for the book, The Lucifer Principle. He has been a big communicator of musical genius. And I had a dialogue with him and Dustin DePerna yesterday on the theme high tech, high love equals high culture. And he is the high tech person. He's one of the leaders in the space community, but brilliant in the understanding of how humans evolve. So he said, I just love this conversation, Barbara. So I said, how about doing a New York Convergence with you, Howard? Sure, he said. Now, he has a lot of really interesting people, so he will help bring them together. We have some people who can help organize it. And what will happen there is we don't know, but we know that we will be increasing the tendency in social nature now to join to connect. And we see all these different convergences as they happen, connecting with one another until we go up into a media of the thinking layer, the planetary nervous system, as building for the next few years what's working, what's connecting, such that we can have a genuine celebration of a planetary awakening. So that's the story for this week.